All right, all right. Welcome to this next episode of the Victory Podcast, where we explore life, leadership, and journey. It's my honor and privilege to introduce you to a friend, an old teammate of mine, Sean Matson. He is the CEO of CardoMax and partner with MATBOCK Technologies. Sean graduated from VMI in 2005. He spent a little around 10 years as a Navy SEAL before pivoting to the private sector and becoming a serial entrepreneur, I'll call him, where he founded MATBOCK with his partner, where they develop technologies for special operations forces in the military so they can be lighter, faster, and more agile in the battle space. And then he's recently started a new endeavor called CardoMax, where they're developing supplements to help high-octane athletes and military people perform at their best, high-energy stuff, recovery drinks, as well as hydration products. So I'm just going to hop right into it, everybody. So Sean, thanks so much for coming on board the show today.
Appreciate it, Bob / Master Chief.
Oh, man, I've been called Master Chief on this show yet.
There
It's
you go.
awesome.
Hey, give respect
Fantastic
where it's
having you.
yeah.
Yeah. So let's start at the beginning with you as far back in your childhood as you think was impactful. And then I just want to share with the audience, kind of your story of like how you found yourself, college selection, what that upbringing was like, and how you found yourself into the SEAL teams.
Yeah, I mean, so, I'll go back a little bit just to kind of set the stage. So first thing, I grew up struggling with dyslexia. I still
Wow.
struggle with it obviously today. And Unfortunately, it's one of the things that I had to pass on to one of my kids. As of right now, I've got one that has some cases of it, a learning disability. But you know, I was diagnosed with dyslexia really early on, so probably I think it was like first or second grade when they identified it, and always just struggled, but always worked hard. Never failed a grade and things like that. Just kind of just did that. Was always big into sports, always big into being outside and playing and just kind of that world. So I grew up and I played a bunch of different sports. I swam in the summer. I played basketball, football, soccer. Kind of bounced around, and then it wasn't until my eighth grade year of middle school when I played more as a sixth grader in football than I did as an eighth grader, and I was kind of like, all right, well, that's kind of the writing's on the wall. I'm not gonna be playing football, in the college years or even pro. So need to kind of go back with where I originally started, which was swimming. Really was one of my first sports that I got into because my mom was a single mom, recently divorced, and she had all elementary school kids, and she was like, "Summertime swimming. You guys are all doing
Yeah.
swimming." So she put us
My
all
mom
into
was the same
swimming.
way.
So we all went into swimming, and real quickly on, I loved it. I mean, I couldn't get enough of it. I was in the pool. I tried some all year swimming, probably around 10, 11 time frame, and I mean, actually earlier than that, probably 8, 9 time frame, and years old, and hated it. And I was like, no, I definitely don't want to do this. I'm missing out on playing with friends. So it wasn't until I was like, like I said, 12, 13 that I went into really starting full time swimming. And then that really became my sport that I stuck with for the rest of, high school, and then eventually got into college with that. But, so that was kind of early kind of sports, kind of, my education. Um, like I said, my mom and dad they were divorced early on. I ended up losing my dad when I was in seventh grade. So, he died of a heart attack. So he was 49, I think.
Wow.
Yeah. So really young. And
That's my age.
yeah, it was, and at the time, again, my parents were, I didn't really grow up with him that much. I mean, we saw him a little bit, but for the most part, it was my mom and my grandparents raising us for that. But, obviously as a young man now, like I have two sisters, one older, one younger, a mom, and I'm the only male really. It was kind of like, it hit hard, for me and also just, um, for the family, I think too, just even that.
What was the age difference with you and your siblings?
We're about 2 years each
Okay.
apart, roughly. So,
And where do you fall in there?
I'm in the middle, right smack in
Ah,
the
okay.
middle.
Yeah,
Yep,
alright.
yep. So, but family history of serving in the military. So all the way, my great grandfather, he ended up living to be well, about a month shy of 100. So we said we're rounding it up. He's 100. I was
100,
like
yeah. I
he
give him
was
that.
99, and 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 9/10. So, he ended up passing away, like I said, but he was in the Navy. My grandfather was in the Navy. My dad was in the Navy. My uncle was actually in the Coast Guard. He actually got killed in the Coast Guard about 2 years right before I was born. And so my middle name comes after him. So
Okay. What's your middle name?
Mark.
Ah,
Yeah.
Sean.
So
Okay. So
yeah. So
I'm curious about overcoming dyslexia. What was that like for you? Because I think fortunate to be diagnosed that early. I mean, I've met parents that their kids don't get diagnosed till their fourth, fifth, sixth grade sometimes. When academics really starts going up, and then they notice their children can't keep up in school.
yeah.
And so, what was that like for you?
I can't say. I mean, the only real negative thing that I ever had in it was as I got a little bit older, really nothing in elementary school, but more in middle school, did it really start coming in and really affecting me because, I mean, I hated reading. Like, I was the kid in the class. Like when you do like classroom reading and they would just go down, like I'm sitting here like prepping like okay which I'm probably going to be around this sentence, so I'd pre-read it, like hopefully get it right, and then have to read, and I mean I struggle with that. So having that always in the back of my head. I mean, probably a little bit of anxiety and now like some PTSD whenever I have to read out loud, just from kids making fun of me or other things like that. Or you could tell, like I just felt like there was all this pressure on me to read, and then I would mess up or something. And so, but elementary school really wasn't much. I think I noticed. I mean, yeah, in terms of kids or anything like that, it was more when it started middle school and then in high school, some of those things. But I can't ever say like I was bullied or anything like that from it. But I know that kids would say or talk, you could hear it or you'd see them talking about it as I was trying to read in front of the class or things like that would happen. So
But academically, did you feel like you had to work harder than, the other kids in the classroom to keep up? Like, so, I
absolutely,
mean, so you're reinforcing this resiliency and this determination throughout
yeah.
your entire, youthful life. I'm sure that
Yeah, I
has
mean,
some.
I mean, I did by no means was I mean, I did well in school. I still held, in middle school and high school and everything like that, A's, B's, maybe some C's here or there and stuff, but I was able to hold probably about a 3.0 ish. I ended up graduating with VMI with a 3.0, but I had some rough semesters there for a little bit where like one semester I think I had like a point 0.8 GPA. It was bad. It was
Oh, man.
really bad. And VMI is a whole nother another story with it, with kind of pivoting out of high school. So I wanted to go to VMI, and so obviously I told you family history of military and things like
Mhm.
that. So I'm gonna go back a little bit. So I wanted to fly. I was Top Gun. I wanted to be a naval aviator. I wanted to fly. I wanted to be just like Top Gun and do that whole thing. Like I said, family history, and primarily in the Navy. So it just kind of fell that way. Plus, Top Gun was huge when I was young, so was really into that. And then um, fifth grade, actually, we were out in San Diego. I was out in San Diego, fifth grade, for spring break. My mom worked for the American Airlines at the time, and so in fifth grade, you got to do your state project. Was the big thing, and my mom's thing for all of us was that she would fly us to our state and allow us to go visit that state that we were getting to do during spring break of fifth grade year. So my older sister, and the cool thing was is we all got smarter, right? So my older sister picked Arizona. She wanted to go to Grand Canyon, so we did the Grand Canyons, right? 2 years later, I come in. California. So we're going a little bit further west. My younger sister, Hawaii.
Hawaii. I knew it.
Yeah. So she was the smartest one out of all of us. But like I said, it was really cool because we got to go there, got to get things from that state and experience something that, you're learning about the state for the whole year, basically, to go do a presentation on at the end of the year. And it was cool to be able to um go there, right? And then we were, for mine, we were there. We were down on in front of Hotel Dell, just because it's such a landmark um, historical site. Wanted to go see it, so we went there to go see it. And in front of there, I'm sitting there, playing in the water a little bit, and all of a sudden, I see these guys running down the beach with boats and logs, and I was like, Mom, that's what I want to go do. And she was like, you know what those guys are, or who they are. I was like, I don't care, but that's what I want to go do. And still, like, at the time, I had no idea who they were or what they was, but I was just like, they were, on the beach. I knew that they were Navy, and I was like, yes, this is exactly what I want to go do. And then, so at the age of 12, I put it in that that's what I was going to go do, and started telling people that I'm
That's
I'm going to go be
amazing.
a SEAL.
So what year was that, 5th grade for you? I'm just wondering if I was one of those idiots with a boat on my head.
94.
No, no, it was after me. Yeah, I went through
Yeah.
in 90. Yeah,
Yeah,
but
it would've been
that's
94, right? Yeah.
very
'Cause my dad
amazing
passed
that, like,
away passed away the next year in '95. So, yeah, it would've been, 94.
because you're basically describing the least glamorous part of SEAL training, you know? The
Yeah.
least glamorous part is running with that damn boat on your head, and that's what I wanna go do.
Yeah.
For me, it was hearing my father was a Vietnam vet talk about when he went through Fort Benning jump school with some UDT guys that were transitioning into the SEAL teams from UDT, and how inspirational they were and how hard they were and everything like that, and that made
Yeah.
me do the research about them in Vietnam, and I read about the training. That's what inspired me. I think if I had seen them during Hell Week with the boats on their heads, I would've been like, "Yeah, no, I don't wanna do that. I don't know."
Yeah, I don't
They're
I
pretty
don't
cool.
know, I don't remember if they were where they were, what they were doing. I don't remember if they were wearing white
Yeah,
shirts or brown shirts. I don't remember any of that stuff. I just remember that part and was
yeah.
like, "Yeah, that's what I wanna go do." And,
Instructors
so
screamed at him. But from 5th grade, so, I've had, I mean, my daughter and a few people I actually interviewed, it seems like 5th grade can be a pivotal, point, like an inflection point for people in their age. So my daughter, 5th grade, tours the Dartmouth campus, right? Sets her
Mhm.
sights, that's where she wants to go, and she's a junior at Dartmouth now,
Yeah.
like, really crazy. And Lee Gallagher, a friend of mine, she knew she wanted to be a journalist, and now she was a journalist at Fortune magazine, and now she's working for Google. So pretty
Yeah.
cool inflection point, Sean.
Yeah. Yeah.
So from 5th
Something
grade
something
on,
something maybe to look at, see what, how many people that go on to go, reach their goals. Like, some people obviously they don't know what they want to do until the day before
right,
they go do it, right? But then I think for others, I think that is, potential pivotal point, pivotal year. You're starting to get a little bit of one. I think it's a year that you're definitely going to remember for the rest of your life, right? Like, it's not
right,
like
I
where
agree.
early on in elementary school it's kind of like, I don't remember all that stuff. Like, I still remember my fifth grade teacher, like a lot of things about fifth grade that you can still recall from memory standpoints, because even though it was 20 plus years, 25 years ago now. So
Yeah, for sure. Um, so you go to VMI, so you're thinking about becoming a SEAL, and again, like, how fulfilling is it to, like, kind of live that dream and set that goal? And I've said before, like, yeah, I played some sports when I was a young kid, but the first, like, long-term goal I ever set for myself was becoming a SEAL, and that was, at the end of my junior year of high school. Um, and man, what a different trajectory that made for the rest of my life. Was it similar to that for you? Like, so you knew you wanted to go to VMI because of the family background, and in the back of your mind the whole time, you'd mentioned jets, but so jets didn't come back in once you made that decision
no,
and set
no,
your eyes on it, but I want to
no.
be
It,
you know,
it, it
so the
was
whole time at VMI, that end goal was for you to get a commission and to go to buds.
Yeah, and so VMI actually was kind of an afterthought. Like, really, it was so I really I didn't care how I got to the SEAL teams really. Like
Mm,
I was going to go there no matter what. And in college was I think and you know, I mean, my mom, no one else in my family had really gone to college, you know, and so at the time it was kind of like, hey, you know, my older sister, me, my younger sister was like, hey, listen, like after high school you go to college. After high school you go to college. So I kind of had that in my mindset in high school, that I had to go to college, right? Like I have to go to college. I have to go to college. But I really didn't know where I wanted to go. And it wasn't until sophomore, junior year, I guess sophomore year, I met a guy that went to VMI and really started that started clicking for me. It's like, okay, he's talking about this brotherhood. Obviously, I already knew a lot about the SEAL Brotherhood, and I was like, man, could be a great nucleus and kind of a another form for me to have where I have a brotherhood from VMI and a brotherhood from the SEAL teams that I can rely on for things. And that just really attracted. That was really attractive to me. I knew it was going to be tough to get in there. I knew it was going to be tough to graduate from there. I think one of the things that, you know, VMI is known for, being just a tough school, but I don't think VMI gets enough credit for how academically challenging the school is. Not just because I'm, you know, dyslexic,
mhm,
but it truly is a like because you have such a small classroom size. You know, I mean, I think my largest classroom all 4 years, I think I had 25 kids in my class. Right, that's the
oh, that's
largest.
fantastic. Yeah.
My smallest was 4. It was me, 3 other guys, and the professor. But because you have that small classroom size in a college, every one of the instructors and professors there, they teach you at a master's level on a lot of things, especially when you start getting into junior, senior year. I mean, they are expecting you at a you're doing research papers that, you know, you would do in a master's program, but you're a junior in college and they're expecting you to do that. So I think that's one of the things that really separates VMI that a lot of people don't realize is they just think it's tough. You're going to be challenged physically and mentally and things like that from being yelled at and that thing because it's a military school, but they don't give it any credit whatsoever from an academic standpoint. And I think VMI is trying harder to showcase some of this as they've getting some better national accolades and national recognition for it. But you know, it's still just like when everyone thinks about it, they just think it's a military school. You're going to go get there and you know get your teeth kicked in.
Well, I mean, I always thought of VMI as a very prestigious school, not just because it was a military academy. And I think mostly my impression of VMI is the caliber of graduates that I've met. I mean, some phenomenal people that I know have graduated VMI.
Bob, you don't have to say that just because I got on the
No,
podcast.
no, like Will Fuller, a friend of mine, you know, he's the senior dude at Lincoln Financial, and the guy, like, you know, he everything he's passionate about the school, VMI, and that's one of the other things I noticed about the alumni is, like, you guys are passionate about that school.
Yeah.
What was your major?
I did civil engineering. Like I said, just with the dyslexia piece of it, I was good at math. I guess I was better at math than I was at reading. You know, I could not, I could barely do English. So if any of the other majors, you have to do a foreign language. There's no way I'm doing a foreign language. I was like, I'll learn how to do trig and calc and everything else like that. I'll rather do that than learn a foreign language or you know take years of English and history. So
Cool. So, okay, so you graduate VMI, and then what was it kinda like, you know, that portion of VMI I'm not familiar with, like, I know the Naval Academy and West Point and Air Force Academy, like, how does that selection process happen for you between, you know, what service branch you go into, and then from there, what's that path look like for
yeah,
folks?
real quick, I do want to go back real
Yeah,
fast
sure.
to the transition from high school to VMI, and the reason I wanted to is really just from the resiliency standpoint
Yeah,
part of it, right? Like I I I so dyslexic, we already talked about. I never got above 1,000 on my SATs. My highest that I ever got was a 940 on my SATs, and that was
that's what I
after.
was that was my
Yeah.
exact score.
Yes. All right, that's perfect. I mean, I took the prep prep course multiple times. I mean, I studied for it. I took the SATs multiple times. I took the ACTs. I could never get above a 940. That was the best I did. And like I talked about VMI being very difficult, not only just academically and physically. I applied early acceptance, got denied early acceptance, and said, "Hey, wait to regular or deferred." I guess. Sorry, got deferred for early acceptance, and then actually got denied regular acceptance. And I was crushed, and I was like, "Okay, VMI is not going to work out. I'm just going to go enlist." So I was like ready to go enlist after high school, but just kept on emailing the director of admissions, emailing alumni like, "Hey, listen, I know my SAT scores aren't strong, but if you let me in, I will prove to you that I will get in." And I emailed the director of admission almost every day. And 3 days before high school graduation, we're getting ready to leave for like our little high school trip here in Virginia. I went to school up in Richmond. We were going down to Busch Gardens for the day for our senior field trip or whatever. It's graduation week. And I got an email that morning, right after morning practice. I'd finished my morning swim practice, came home to get breakfast. And I don't know why, but I checked my email that morning and I got an email from the director saying, "Hey, I'm going to take a shot on you. You're in." I never got an acceptance letter. I didn't get anything. I just had this email that said, "Show up," basically. And I just screamed. I jumped down from the second story down to the first story, like literally all the steps, and just screamed like, "I did it. I'm in." And my grandma was just like in tears, and she was like,
That's
"Dude, that is
amazing.
so awesome."
I'm
So then
glad
I
you
had to
got the bus. That's a
yeah,
great story, man.
I had to email the guy back because I mean he's a colonel, and I was like emailed him. I was like, "Hey sir, like what does this mean? Like I get it, I'm in, but like when do I show up?" Like, all these things. He's like, "Don't worry about it. We'll email you later. Just, enjoy graduation week." And he's like, "I'll see you in matriculation day." Um, so fast forward, got there. He came and introduced himself back to me
I
that
love it.
day and said, "Just so you know, I'm going to have every one of your test scores, every grade you ever get, I'm going to have before you." He's like, "I'm watching you every step." And he goes, if you screw up, I'm kicking you out." And so like that from day one, like I was like, there would be days where he'd come into my room and he's like, "Hey Sean, what happened on this test?" And I was just like, "Shit, this is not good." So, but ultimately, obviously things came out well. I graduated from VMI. I graduated with like a 2.99. Again, we'll round up. It was a 3.0.
Trio.
Uh, yeah.
Persistency and
Um,
resiliency, though. That's awesome. So I just remember while you were telling that story, another 5th grade story was Colonel Kim Campbell, who I just had on the show earlier this week, actually. And, she at 5th grade decided she wanted to go to the Air Force Academy. Same thing. Wanted early acceptance, denied, denied regular, and she was persistent, she kept writing the
yep.
faculty, she kept writing the admissions office, and like, really late in the stages, she gets the acceptance letter at home and, like,
Yep.
freaked out and was just like, "Yeah, I got in," so and she had
Yeah.
family had gone through the Air Force Academy and everything like that, so
I
it's
mean,
really that's persistence and resiliency, that's amazing, good
yeah.
stuff.
Like, and I still keep in contact with Colonel Beitzel, who's the director, periodically and stuff like that. He'll check on me. I'll check in on him.
Awesome.
I've put my name behind a couple kids that have gone up there and made it through. And I mean, he basically, after graduation. So when we're on graduation day, he came up to me, shook my hand, and just said, "Hey, listen, you proved me wrong. You proved a lot of people here wrong. Like, if we just look at the numbers, you would have never made it, right?
Mhm.
But the fact that you kept on and you kept on," he goes, "that's why I took a shot at you." And he goes, "You proved exactly why." And a little bit of history on VMI, like VMI has looked to go private so many times through history and become a private school, but the reason they continue to hold off and not go private is their fear that they're going to lose out on the middle class kid who couldn't afford a private education, couldn't get grants or other things like that to qualify for, some of those things, and just the sheer expense of it, that they would lose out on that type of person that does so well at VMI.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so they've they've continued to stay public, university.
That's inspiring. And do you know, have they continued to kinda have that sort of whole person effect? I mean, obviously, they can't do it for everybody, but I mean, I just love that example that, like, hey, if you just did it by the numbers, you wouldn't have come in, but when they viewed from the whole person because they allowed your letters to get in and they made it through to the kernel, you know, it's just fantastic when organizations kind of look at that aspect of things, and because it impacts not just you, right? It impacts your classmates. It impacts how the school is recognized. And then the stories of Sean Matson, what you've been going on to achieve between becoming a SEAL and a successful serial entrepreneur. Like those are the things that they want to highlight, right?
Yeah.
It's like a little bit of that, I don't always like to put underdogs on on a pedestal when they're successful, but that's part of the American story is like
Yeah.
we as Americans have been underdogs in a lot of the things we get involved in. We end up coming out on top.
Yeah, I mean, so, I don't know obviously in terms of, percentage wise or anything like that, but I do know there's been a couple kids that I've put my name behind that kind of similar situation that
Yeah, that's
would
great.
may have not have made it in, but then get in and they graduate. So, as a kid, he ended up actually working for me for a little period during while he was at VMI and as an intern. And he's graduated now. He's doing well and things like that. But he would have been one that might not have been able to get in. If it wasn't for that email, and I think that's so critical for, like I said, any brotherhood, any organization like that. And I mean, even when you talk about fraternities and sororities and things like that, that's why these things exist, right? Because it's like I can talk to Colonel Beitzel because he went to VMI, I went to VMI, and I can say, "Hey, listen, you're seeing this kid for the 15 or 20 pieces of paper that you've seen in front of you. I'm seeing him. I've known this guy since he was 3 years old or whatever the case might be for that particular person, right?" And like, it's like I understand what you have, but like I've got decades of history with this guy, and you've only got a couple pieces of paper that you're trying to make a decision on. And he's like, he may or may not make it, and even if, you give your best recommendation for a kid, he might not make it, but at the end of the day, like I would take that kid that has that type of recommendation from not just me, there's other people that are calling on his behalf, opposed to someone who just looks great on paper, right? Because they've been there.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So that selection process or that um what do you call it? The branch of
Transition.
service. Yeah,
Yeah.
and the transitioning. So how does that work from VMI?
Yeah, so VMI is unique compared to the other academies, right? So you can decide where you want to go. You can and or even if you want to go in the military, you don't have to go into the military. So out of my graduating class, about half went into the military. The other half that don't go into the military, you have some that go back to school to get their master's degree, and then you have another portion that kind of go into government jobs. Whether that's an agency job or FBI or uh, Peace Corps, other things like that. So you basically have half your class, a quarter of the class go back to school, and another quarter of the class, kind of go into some kind of governmental job and things like that. So, there are some that just go straight into the private sector, but it's such a small percentage that don't go that route.
Okay, so it's not even where there's billets, right? So it's only certain number of the class can go Navy, certain number can go Marine Corps. So you basically you get your selection, you get to choose. That's pretty smart.
So VMI falls into the allotment of ROTCs. So if the
Gotcha.
Navy is going to give 1,000 ROT slots, VMI is competing against those 1,000 ROTC slots. So there's not we're like the Naval Academy, for example. They have an allotment for
Mm,
different billets. Like, hey, we're going to give 20 kids a shot at SEAL team or SEALs, or we're going to give 50 kids a shot at being a pilot, right? VMI, you don't have that. You're in the big pool of ROTC.
okay. And so then you selected Navy, and then you had to compete with the other ROTC candidates for a slot at Buds?
Yeah, so actually
That's a game changer to me. I mean, not that I didn't have you in any high regard already, but, like, I because I was part of the process, fortunately, one time to do the screening, for those candidates, and man, it is tough. I mean, it is
so I actually did not go that
okay.
route. Um, I so something I didn't know at VMI, or well, I guess in ROTC, by the end of your sophomore year, the Navy and Marine Corps require you to commit by the end of your sophomore year. Um, I didn't know that. The Air Force and Army, you can literally, as long as you hit all your milestones, you can agree like a couple days a week before graduation, like, hey, I'm going to go become an Army officer. I didn't know that.
Oh, no, so you
So
thought you were in the Army Air Force
yeah.
category.
So end of my sophomore year, I go back to VMI for summer school. I'm up there at summer school. About it literally like you finish school, you get like a 2 week break, and then you come back for summer school. So I'm up there for summer school. I go down to the ROTC office and I talk to our lieutenant down there, and I was like, "Hey, sir, I'd like to go ahead and commit. I want to go ahead and try to see if I can get maybe an NRTC scholarship or something, but I want to go ahead and commit to this and sign." And he was like, "Well, you missed the deadline by 2 weeks." And I was like, "Wait, nobody told me anything about a deadline." And he was like, "Well, you never looked interested enough." I was like,
Oh
"What?"
my
I was like,
gosh.
I doing all this extra PT for you guys. Like I go to all the NRTC like stuff, even though I didn't have a contract or a scholarship, and I'm at all these extra events. I'm going to the different FTXs, and he's like, "Yeah, sorry, you missed it by 2 weeks." So I ended up having to find a recruiter, and I had to go to OCS in between VMI and going out to Bud. So you take that
So you
pool
had to
of
do
our
VMI and OCS.
yeah. So the from what I heard in 2015 or 2005, my year group, there was 5 OCS guys that got picked for Buds. I
Mhm.
was one of those guys that got picked
Wow.
for
Yeah, it's even
OCS.
harder out of OCS than
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So myself, another guy, Brandon Stone,
Mhm.
um, um, a guy named Turnip Seed. We were 3 guys, and we were all kind of in OCS
I
together.
know all 3 of you guys. How about that?
Yeah, yeah. So, that was that we were 3 of the guys, and then there was another guy, Pete Mitchell, STV guy. So he was 4. I can't remember the 5th guy. And then there was a couple others that came in after us that actually ended up being '06 year group, just because we were kind of towards the end of we graduated in August of '05. So
For OCS, okay, cool.
yeah. Yeah, so good times.
Yeah, yeah. So the long road to Buds from grade,
Yeah,
you know
yeah. Fun times leaving VMI and then, like, on top of the world, graduating from VMI to go get yelled at for 13 weeks by a Marine Corps DI, so
Yeah. Now we don't have to go through your, anything that you think is, pivotal experience of, I'm sure I don't know how much research you got to do for Buds, but Buds wasn't at all what I expected. From the research I did, which was very little because I went through in 1990, there was almost no information about the training at all.
yeah.
So Buds was drastically different than what I had expected it to be. What was it like for you when you showed up?
Um, so I wasn't one to, like, I did some research. I read books and but a lot of times when I got to those books and they would start talking about buds, I would just I would take the section and just like skip it, and then want to read all about like the rest of their like the cool like war stories more. I
Mhm.
didn't really care about the training stuff. I did watch the Buds 234 documentary and stuff like that, and so I kind of had some idea of what to expect, but I don't think by any means, like, when I got to Buds and like some of these kids were talking about like, oh, well, this day's this and this day's this, and we're
Yeah, I
gonna be
had no
doing this.
clue.
had no idea, none of that,
It's a
and
much better
honestly,
way
I
to
think
go through training. It's a
I
much better way
agree.
to.
100%. Like, there was kids that would be, like, talking about, like, "Oh, man, they're gonna do this to us today, and they're gonna," and I was like, "Alright, whatever." Eh, but, like, in their head, they got so spun up, and when it
So
didn't happen, they're like, "Wait, they were supposed to do this," and then, like, a week later, they would do that, and then the kid would quit, and you're just like, "What happened? Like, you were doing great."
yeah, the story I
So
share is like because there was such limited information, when I showed up to Buds, I showed up on a weekend to check in. And the guy, his name was Soland. He took me around the compound and showed me around. And when I showed up, I thought Buds was 7 days a week. The instructors had access to us 24 hours a day. And so by the time I get this familiarization walk around by one of the students, like, oh, you mean it's Monday through Friday most of the times? And,
yeah.
first phase, you're done by 5:30 in the evening, most evenings. I was like, holy cow. Bud just became, SEAL training just became like 40% easier to me,
Yeah.
but I
Same
totally agree.
same thing.
Yeah,
Same
not
thing. I
knowing
just
what
had
to
in my
expect
head
just
I
makes
just
it
had in my
better.
head it was
I'm not gonna
6
quit.
months. Yeah.
Yeah,
I had in my head that it was 6 months of nonstop, and they were like, well, and 2, because I was an officer, they were like, "Hey, on the weekends, you could go back to your house." I was like, "What? This is awesome. Like, this is so great. Like, I can do this," you know? But I'd say when you talk about buds real quick, I think the thing that uh when you talk about, like, research and things like that, and the thing that really, like, stuck out in my head was, in the buds 234 video. I'm sitting here watching them, and I was like, man, halfway through hell week, you're doing these pool games, man, those look like a lot of fun. Like, just being a swimmer, I was like, man, I can't wait, right? And then what they don't show you, though, is when you lose a game, like when you lose one of the races or something like that. And like, the whole time during that evolution, I was like, man, I hate this thing. Like, I hate this evolution. Like, I just want to be done with this thing, because I was like miserable, because I was like, I'd replayed it in my head, like, man, this is gonna be so much fun. We're gonna be doing relay races in the pool, and by the time we got there, I was miserable. I was like, "There's no, I just want this over."
yeah. Man, the pool evolutions in Hell Week are like total blur to me.
Yeah.
Amazing.
I one last Hell Week story. And going back to what you said on, like, I 100% a believer, God does have a purpose for us, and things, and so for me, my people always ask me, like, "Hey, did you ever think about quitting, or did you ever think that you couldn't make it?" My honest to God answer is no, right?
Mhm,
I knew I could make it. Now, there were times that I was like, I didn't know how I was going to make it, but I knew I could make it, right? Like, I just, and that one defining moment for me in Hell Week was Tuesday morning. We're down at the elephant cages. We got boats on our heads, going back to my
mhm.
favorite, what
Back to
made
the
me want to go is seeing
hotel.
these guys, right? Um, Tuesday morning, I'm in the number 3 position, so I'm in the back. And a guy in front of me is like, "Hey, man, I need to swap out. Like, my neck, I need to swap out." So I was like, "I got you." And his last name was Madsen, Madsen. And I was like, "Dude, I got you. Swap." So we switched. So I took the number 2 position, and immediately I went from doing good to, like, my neck just falling and falling, and I'm ducking boat, right? And I'm sitting here just like, okay, I was just fine back there. Why can't I do it here? Like, in my head, and like all these things, all these thoughts in my head start going through, and I'm like, I literally, for that, like, brief second, I was like, God, like, I know I can do this, but what am I supposed to do right now? Like,
Mhm.
I need help. And it was like a ton of bricks hit me across, and it was like, dude, Sean, you're an idiot. Just look up. And I was like, oh yeah. Then I was like, aha moment. Like, as soon as I looked up, I was in the proper position. The boat was riding right where it needed to be. I was perfect. And I cruised through the rest of that evolution. But it was just like, that split second was just like, you idiot, you got to look up. You got to look up. And I did. And that was like, that little defining moment for me. Like, I always sticks out for me, is like I said, it wasn't like I thought I was going to quit, or like, I was on the fence or anything like that. It was just like, I knew I could do it. I just didn't know how I was going to do it. And that started to really eat at me for that, brief split second.
Yeah, yeah, I had a similar moment of doubt, not during Hell Week, but there was this time we ran the boats down to North Island, and my boat crew had messed up something. I don't remember exactly what it was. And one of the instructors the whole time had us like shovel a bunch of sand with our paddles into the boat. And then we had to run back with it on. And, the boat's already, I forget how much it weighs, 200 pounds or whatever else. Well, we put
Yeah.
probably another 200 pounds of sand in that boat. And I'm like, I'm running and I can feel this pressure on my neck and head that's like it's not working. I'm like, I
Yeah.
can hold on to this. And luckily everybody in the boat crew was kind of having the same thing at the same time. But for a solid like 2 minutes, I'm like, I don't know if I can do this. That was the first and only time that happened in my head. And I look back at that moment like, would I have quit there? Like there was like one of those things like I don't, I was prepared to like keel over or something, do
Yeah.
some bodily damage or whatnot. But that moment of self-doubt, man, is like it can be so powerful to like, I think it either inspires you or you just dwell on it, if you make that bad decision. So yeah, it's just pretty remarkable stuff.
And I mean, we all do it on I mean, sometimes maybe even an hourly basis on things. Like it can be so easy. I mean, think about, like, I know for me when I was training for to try to break the world record with the EOD bomb suit, right?
Yeah,
Some
I
of
want
my
to get into that
workouts,
story too. Yeah.
some of my workouts, right, are just brutal, but I'm doing them by myself, right? And there were so many times during those workouts where it's just like, hey man, you got it. Like, you're okay. Like, if you don't do this fifth set, no one's gonna, no one's gonna, no one's gonna say anything. Like, no one's gonna call you out. You could easily just do, and I mean, like, this is all going on in your head while you're working out, and then you feel yourself like where you were at like 90% intensity, now you're at like 60%. And you're just not, and you're like, and man, some of those times like that, it's so easy to just be like, turn off. And then there's other times where it's just like that just stays in and that just
Yeah.
keeps eating at you. And you're just like, and I know, I mean, that to me, especially when you're working out by yourself or doing anything by yourself, is one of the hardest things to overcome, is that inner voice, that inner that inner bitch voice, I call it. It's
Yeah.
just like
Yeah.
it's so easy to just be like, I mean, you're a rider, right? You get on one of those roads by yourself, or you're out, or out from the pack, and it's like you're cruising, and all of a sudden you're like 3, 4, 5 miles an hour slower now because you're just like, I got this. I'm good.
Yeah, I was actually gonna make that correlation is, you know, that mental self-talk that can happen subconsciously, it seeps in for me anyway, it seeps in subconsciously, and I've trained myself over the years to listen to pay attention to when it's happening so I can shut it down. And it'll even happen to me today. I'll go out for a simple 40-mile training ride or something like that. And it's almost always an out, it's a lollipop. So like basically once I'm halfway out, I've got no choice but to ride all the way back. It's not like I'm doing 2-mile loops or whatnot.
Yep.
And like the last 10 miles of the ride, I'll start feeling like crap. And I'm not putting out the same energy and blah, blah, blah. And I'm not looking forward to, oh, there's a red light. I got to stop and start again. And like once that mindset happened, like, Bob, just shut up. And sometimes all it
Yeah.
takes is me like 10 seconds on the side of the road or not even. I'll just do it while I'm pedaling and just start being like, no, I'm having fun. I'm out here because this is what I like to do. And as
Yeah.
soon as I like turn that verbiage around in my head, those last 5 or 10 miles go by like that and it's over with, and then I don't have to beat myself up. But those times when I finish a workout where I backed off, like you said, or I let that negative self-talk impact me, the rest of my days is not as well. But man, when you
Yeah.
rise up and you overcome that and you do what you set out to do, man, it's like your whole day, the rest of the week, all those things are so much easier. And I think that's why those of us that stay physically active and set those small goals on a regular basis, it helps me anyway. I mean, I've suffered depression and all sorts of stuff over my years, and those times when I set out to do those micro wins are really powerful to me.
Yeah. I actually, one of the things that I'm doing right now, I'm trying to get my body back. I obviously we'll talk about it here in a minute on the bomb suit run. I'm still dealing with that injury now, but while I'm dealing with this, I've been doing some more upper body lifting and other things like that. But my shoulder's jacked. I'm like, you know what? I just need to go. Like, I've already got my left one worked on. I need to just go ahead and do my right one. Because honestly, one of the things that I've started to get an itch for again is going back and doing some competitive master swimming, and training again for it. I miss that feeling of pushing myself to those levels, and like, yeah, I love to work out, and I don't really like to run, but I do it. But like, there's not a workout that I've ever done that makes me hurt as bad as some of these swim workouts that I used to do, and I'm getting that itch. Like, I just want to go do those,
Yeah, because
and
you get lactic acid in your entire
oh
body.
my
It's
gosh,
not
yeah.
just your legs or just your
Well,
arms, it's your entire
speaking of
body.
that, one of my coaches, we used to do lactic acid sets where you would so like you would do 10 500s or something like that freestyle. So 500 is a good middle distance swim. I mean 500 yards, right? And we would do 10 of them in a practice. And the goal was whatever you went out on your first one was you had to be within so many seconds of your last one. And so and he would always have it like calculated out. So like if your race pace time was this, here's what he would allow you to be at. Or you would have to keep repeating that
Oh,
first
yeah.
one until you got that, right? And I mean, just brutal workouts. So you're already at this percentage of your race pace. So you couldn't just like cruise that first 500. He would never let that happen. But and then by the fifth one, I mean, you are literally getting seconds of rest and that's it. And you're right back on. And the lactic acid is just building up so much by the end of it. I mean, you barely could move your arms. And that last one, I mean, it felt like you were just like a fish out of water, just miserable. But yeah. So I want to get my shoulder right and get back in it. I don't want to start training on it and then because my shoulder's just jacked. I can feel it when I'm doing little small lifts. And I know it's just an orthoscopic where it takes 6 months and I'm back to being good. So like
I mean, you've already
my
gotten it, you already got the MRI, so you know the damage
no,
that's
but it's
there.
the same. It's the exact same positions, exact same thing. That I mean, hopefully they'll just go and do a quick MRI, see, yep, 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 and I can get on the table and get it knocked out. And like I said, if it doesn't feel like anything else is wrong with it, it's a discal clavicle right here in your collarbone area. I had it done right before I got out. It was on my left side, and it's the exact same pain that I'm having on my right. So. But 6 months recovery, orthoscopic, and get back to it. So that's
Well,
what
I hope that's the case for you. I don't
yeah.
have you heard of the Katsu bands?
No.
It's a oh my goodness. I mean, I just got them yesterday from my John Doolittle, Captain
Yeah.
Doolittle retired? Yeah, so he works at Katsu, and, so they've got a program, so I just got mine yesterday, and it's blood restricting therapy. So
Okay.
you put bands on your arms, you do your arms, and you can do your legs, and it basically causes, what do you call it? Not blood saturation, but you pump good oxygenated blood in your tissue, but you
Yeah.
don't let the vascular blood get back to your heart for like 30 seconds at a time. And it's
Sure.
supposed to like up your HGH and all your hormone levels, and it helps aid recovery. And
Huh.
then elite athletes actually do exercises with those bands on. But I did all the research when John reached out to me, and it looks really promising. I'll let you know how it works for
Yeah,
me. So last night I
definitely.
did my first session before after I did my sauna session before going to bed. And that from my broken neck, the nerve damage on my right side is pretty, I wouldn't call it extensive, but I can feel it.
Yeah.
And for the first time when I put that band on and it was engulfed with all that blood, like all the nerves in my arm, my triceps and deltoid that I haven't felt in like 2.5 years were firing. It was
Right.
really, really bizarre. So I'm really
Huh.
looking forward to how that recovery is going to work for you. So
Yeah. That
me, and I'll let
definitely.
you know as you're going through rehab. I'll
Yeah.
get you the information on that stuff too. So back,
Yeah.
so you go through buds. I mean, any other stories you might want to share, or like what it was like selecting the SEAL team? You came back to the East Coast, I guess, because you have family here, and that was what
Yeah, I
steered you.
did. I I I liked, I wanted to come back here just being from Virginia. Also, the different instructors, I mean, like, as you start going
Mhm.
through, you start kind of figuring out where they were from. I leaned more towards the East Coast SEAL instructors. I just like their mentality on things, and how they handled things or whatever it was. And so it just kind of all, for me, it was like I'm going back to the East Coast. And So I ended up coming back, went to Team 4, checked in, and actually I was checking in right as Mike Day was Mike Day was walking through the hallway with his colostomy bag, like IVs and everything else. And so me and two other officers were checking in, and Team 4 is still deployed.
Yeah, is that
And
still that was 2007.
yeah, 6, 7, yeah, yep.
Yeah. Mhm.
And so he's like, hey, uh I see you guys checking in. And he's like, listen, if you guys screw up just this much, he's like, you're going to be carrying this colostomy bag around. And I was like, okay, whatever. But at the time, I had no idea who the guy was. Right? Like he's in
Yeah.
civilian clothes. I have no idea who he is. We're in our, I think, our whites or whatever. And like I said, none of the team was there. We check in, we leave, and then
That's bastard.
once the team came and shows up, he comes back, and they do like a quick little ceremony for him there as we're doing the transition. And I was like, oh, that's Mike Day. I was like, that's who that guy was.
Shot 27 times in Iraq.
Yeah.
That was a
Yeah.
rough year, man. So, he got hit, the next deployment teammate, Jay Redmond, got hit, and then
Yep.
I was team 2 in Baghdad. I got hit. I was the least impacted of the 3 of us. But,
Yeah.
2007, 2008 was, no joke, man.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It
he's
was.
he's a funny guy, man. That guy's a total character.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, I mean, checked in Team 4, did, assistant platoon commander there, went over to SA2, did 2 years there over there, and then went to Team 8 and did ended up doing about 4 years there. So I did a total of 10 years active, jumped in the reserves, did another 3 years in the reserves, ultimately, got out.
It's a pretty cool track though. So you kinda got, you got your AOIC, then you went to SRT2, got rounded a little bit there, and
Mhm.
then did your OIC at teammate?
Yeah, so I ended up getting to do two OICs
Nice.
back to back.
That's what I was gonna ask, 'cause with that timeline, it was you that's nice.
Yeah, so, because, team 8 was doing, a quick cycle, right before I checked in, so they were on the everybody else was doing, like, the 10-month or whatever it was, that like, that long push, while team 8 was doing quick turns.
Yep.
So I got to team 8, did my platoon commander, and then they gave me an option to do another platoon commander or take a troop commander. And I was like, well, if I take a platoon commander, do I get to keep all my same guys? And just like and they were like, yeah. And I was like, that's what I want to do. I was like,
Yeah.
absolutely, I'll do another
Yeah, that
platoon
almost never
commander. And
happens. That almost never happens.
no, and I mean, it was like either I could be a really young troop commander, basically, because I would have been a little bit ahead just because of how that quick turn happened, or I could be, kind of a more senior troop commander, after, essentially what would have been a 3.5 year platoon commander tour, get to do two deployments at that. So I chose that route. Um, and I had six E6s, no, five E6s. All of them had multiple combat deployments. Um, I had my my team leader became LPO. My LPO became the chief, and we brought in a AOIC. I was a platoon commander, so I had literally all my same guys and only a few new guys in there, and it was by far the best platoon that I ever did in my teams. And like constantly, like during those 2 years, we're like, hey guys, listen, this is not normal. Like,
Yeah, yeah. You gotta
do
set
not
expectations for those young lads, otherwise
yeah, we really ruined him. But like, just, I mean, everything clicked though. I mean, and I mean, how the platoon is and things like that. But just everything really clicked with our platoon, and like everybody got along. Even to the point where guys were like, when we were on the road, when like go out for dinner. people would be, some people make their own food, some people go out and eat, sometimes it's a hybrid thing. Guys would still like bring their food with them to go eat with the platoon. I was just like, that doesn't happen,
Hmm.
like, and so it was really awesome. And then, went through about about I don't know, about a quarter way through that. Maybe yeah, about a quarter of the way through. We're just finishing up, or about halfway through ULT. So we're not even halfway through yet, of that workup. Um, Started having some marital issues. Well, a lot more than I guess previous, but and then kind of the writing was kind of on the wall. We separated. I did the rest of my workup separated, living with actually my LPO
Yeah.
at his house, um, and had two kids already. One, my son was the youngest; he was right at one and a half ish, and my daughter was 4 or 5. But as I kind of saw everything, it was like this is not going to be a good lifestyle. Divorced, with two kids, trying to be a team guy. And so, about, I think I went Christmas, kind of came back from all of that and kind of told the command, like, hey, listen, like, this is going to be my last. So, about a year out from actually leaving teammate, just said, hey, I don't think this is going to be where I go. Um, I had, aspirations to go to Damneck and continue on.
Mhm.
I really thought myself as being a career SEAL, just, everything that, even with some of the other stuff that we had going on at the time with MATBOCK and other things like that, that was always just a kind of side thing. My focus was, being a team guy and being a dad and things like that. But when the, divorce and separation and everything like that
Yeah, no
started
way, man.
happening, there was no way I could do that and try to be a good dad.
Yeah, mad
So
respect. I mean, so many others don't take that course, and they try and muddle through or work through or think it's all gonna be okay, and they struggle through it. And, when I would do career development boards with my lads, and, "Oh, I'm gonna get out, Master Chief." I'm like, "Well, why are you getting out?" "Well, I wanna be the coach of my son's baseball team," or, "I want my marriage to stay together and mean something long term." Like, you can't
yeah,
argue with that. Like, "Okay, cool," and
yeah,
then I'll help them do whatever they need to do to pivot on the outside, and that's really strong, to be able to do that, especially with your kids so young, you know?
yeah,
I got divorced, 24 years into my service, you know? I was a command master chief of team 2, and it was horrible, horrible
yeah,
experience, but to be a young operator, geez, no way.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I mean, I definitely, I don't wish it on anybody, but it was the right decision. I mean, the fact that I could be there with my kids and see them. I did not want them to be, like I said, growing up, didn't really have my dad around.
Yeah,
It was just my mom really raising us, and I didn't want to be that kind of dad. I didn't want to be a weekend dad. I didn't want to be someone who, especially with the teams. I mean, as busy as they are and traveling and things like that, just like not sure. And then if you do try to set plans, it gets diverted the other way. And especially if I was trying to go over to Dam Neck, it's like this would never happen.
right.
And so, decided that was going to do the reserves. And actually, during that time, as I was transitioning out, I was actually going to be, one of the, um, active reservists, kind of go the FTS route
Mhm.
and do that. But then about a
For some
month out from,
predictability or whatnot, yeah.
yeah, about a month out, they were like, "Oh, we don't have money for this," and so I was
Oh,
like,
okay.
"Oh crap!"
But
So
I had forgotten that you guys had started MATBOCK while you were active duty, like, you guys had developed a couple of, products to help get right? Because you're inspired by some shortfalls or something that weren't necessarily up to par, so tell us that
yeah,
story.
yeah, so, the first idea was actually a cargo net,
Mhm.
for the pallets, for the big, 463 Lima military pallets. Zach and I developed this in SQT. So 2006, we developed this cargo net, and we're like, hey, this, we'll just sell this cargo net and make millions of dollars to, the intellectual property and make some royalties and things. But nobody saw the idea like we did because it was just an idea at the time. It wasn't a physical product. And then, so fast forward to 2010, we decided to go ahead and actually form MATBOCK. So we were like, well, we need a company name. And we're like, we'll take part of my last name and part of your last name. And there's MATBOCK. So his last name's Steinbach and mine's obviously Matson. So that's how MATBOCK was formed. Not to be confused with the horrible TV show Matlock, which we get sometimes. um, but the so so those 4 years kind of went by. We formed the company, and we were deploying. We're going in and out of Iraq. Zach went to Afghanistan. I was going in and out of Iraq, and just really saw the need for innovation. Right,
Mhm.
like everybody, and what we saw was a lot of companies making the exact same product. Here's your plate carrier. And then you'd see 1,000 companies make the exact same plate carrier. Or, hey, here's a pouch. Everybody making that same pouch. And there was just no innovation in it. And we also understand, right, that was because the demand was for these things, right? The demand was not for innovation. But we saw this as an opportunity to really put our foothold into this innovative space, into that. And we wanted to be, well, unique. We didn't want to do what everybody else was doing. We really wanted to challenge the status quo of these products and technologies that go out there. And so we formed Mapbox. We started finding a manufacturer that could help us. We started figuring out how to do all the intellectual property, and started putting products together and putting products out there, and really sticking by the fact that we are going to put our flag into this innovation and bring new products and technologies, to the point where we came up with a product. We thought we were the only ones that had this idea. It was actually a Fortrex GPS holder for your top of your
Mhm.
wrist, and it looked kind of like your altimeter for jumping, right? And so we came out with it. We pushed it out on the internet. We, put it out on some blogs and websites and forums and other things like that. And people were like, "Hey, LBT's been making that for like a year now." And we're like, "There's no way." Like we checked it. We
London
checked
Bridge
LBT.
Technologies, right? Is that
Yeah, London Bridge. We're like, "No way." Like we checked LBT stuff. Like they never said they. We looked at their website. They're not selling anything, but sure enough, they had one, and it was just like some guys took a picture of it with the LBT tag on it, and so we're like, "All right." We refunded everybody's money and pulled the product down and said, "Hey, listen, sorry, but this is not what our company's about. We're not about making something that someone else already did. We thought this was innovative. We thought this was unique to us." And we caught some haters, right? We people that were like, "Hey, we wanted to really use this, and we wanted to support you guys." But then we also caught a lot of support too, and that was probably a big defining moment in our entrepreneurial journey, and that was really early on. I mean, that happened within, like, maybe, I think that was probably 2014 timeframe, because
Yeah, I mean,
from
what a
2000.
dedicated decision because, like, you could have said, "Keep the product,
Yeah.
we'll give you your money back," but and you and Zach were like, "I don't want that product with our label on it being out there being compared to an LBT product because it's not what we're about," and so you're
Yep.
basically putting the line in the sand about what your company culture and what your values were about, which is that's pretty
Yep.
remarkable, especially
Yeah,
for
because,
a startup like that because they eat that sandwich, that was a shit
well,
sandwich, let's be honest, like
yeah, well, and the thing was, is, I mean, right, like, I mean, at the time, that was probably our biggest product launch, right? So going back, 2010, right? We really didn't have our first product on the market till about 2013, which was the cargo net. But the cargo net's not something that individuals are going to buy. It's a $3,000 piece of kit, and when you're,
did that go to
this was
market?
kind of,
Did it go to market?
it did, and we've sold like two of them. So
Yeah, I was gonna
it's
say 'cause
been,
I got a friend, Scott Srepko made, flight suits with a poop door, a butt door in them
yep.
for the pilots, and no, they never he's got like 5,000 of these things made or 500 of them made that are some warehouse somewhere, so
Yeah, it was a product that we started Mapbox with, and it's been, I'll say from a sales standpoint, it's been our biggest failure from a sales
Mhm.
standpoint, but it's helped us. That was what catapulted MATBOCK into becoming a company, but also helped us
Right.
understand manufacturing process, how to do intellectual property, how to market something, contracts. I mean, it helped make so much of the foundation of what you see of MATBOCK today that by no means was it a failure. It hasn't sold a lot.
What a great
It
outlook. What a great
yeah,
outlook on that.
it
Yeah.
it, the two that we sold couldn't keep our lights on now for, a couple hours, but but you know, but so again, we were deploying, we were doing different things. We wanted to be that innovative company. We wanted to show people that we could bring innovation to an industry that we saw was just a bunch of copycats and people stealing ideas.
Mhm.
Because it's really hard to patent soft sewing technology, products.
Well, yeah, because a lot of those ideas that I won't throw the names of those companies out there, but most of them, and just from a team guy aspect, I'm sure it was the same for the Green Berets and everybody else's, like, those were usually operator innovations. Like, like, I would go to that company and be like, "Hey, I need a way to carry my 40 mic grenades, blah, blah, blah," and I would kinda sketch out what it was, and then they build it, and the next thing you know, you go to their store after your deployment, and they've got a rack full of these things that they made special for you, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
total copycats, yeah.
Yep. And so, so, I mean, here's the thing. We do just that. We do talk to guys still to this day. Now, we on the back end, we do something different. We don't market it, but we actually will give that operator a cut in our profit. If they bring us an idea that we end up going, we make them sign a whole development agreement that we did. But that was something we started day one. Again, we wanted to be innovative. We knew that these ideas were coming from the platoon space and not some, retired team guy or retired SF guy. They do have a lot of credibility in these organizations, but a lot of
Yeah,
times
careful, Sean, careful.
no, 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 no,
Totally
no.
out of that space. I do mentorship stuff, but I'm not a good idea fairy anymore in that space.
No, no, but right. So they're critical in those and they do a great job and they have a team. Now, the problem is that train keeps going and then you're relying on old data, old information. You could
Exactly
still
right.
be a great
Exactly right.
resource.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. And those positions need those guys to help them with that. But for us where we felt like it was um really critical was to keep getting in front of the new guys or keep getting in front of the one platooners or two platooners that it could be like, hey, listen, like we've got this idea for this. What do you guys think? And they would give us some more feedback from it and really kind of co-develop things
Yeah.
rather than like you said, just steal their idea and be like, oh no, this is our
Well,
idea.
it's also it makes me think, like, your model is really awesome because it makes me think of that Einstein quote, right? Like, you can't solve the problem with the same thinking that caused it, right? So,
Hmm.
like, and that's because that's the anti-innovation, right? Like,
Yeah.
just kinda using the same information you have. No, you have to go somewhere outside that space to
But
be
we work with guys and we and nothing we're doing from that perspective is sensitive or they're not giving any secrets, they're not giving anything, I mean, we're talking like a medical litter, right, or something like that. It's like, hey, listen, like how could you see this being deployed today, right? Like there's nothing in that that's going to be classified in that stuff. So but using our own experiences, obviously using other guys' experiences to help build these products. We've brought almost 300 products to the market now. And one of our best selling products, I'll actually, go, a little deployment story was this SSE bag that converts to a soft stretcher. We were on an op and engaged with some guys, and then we had to as we started clearing up to him, he was still alive, so we had to try to get him out of there. So I'm calling in birds, I'm working on this guy, got commander in my ear and all these things going on at the time, and we had to carry the guy to the helicopter in a chain link fence and a
Mm,
rug.
mhm.
And I was like, this is just ridiculous. So we start exfil, we start, we go back towards the base. We're flying home And on the whole flight home, I'm like, we have this SSE bag that we already carry. So there's nothing innovative about that. Right. But I was like, why can't we, it's kind of like a rectangle, right? I was like, why can't we take one side and this side and put a zipper here so that when you open it up, now you could carry somebody. And like I called my business partner Zach. I was like, Zach, I was like, I got an idea. And he was like, dude, that's genius. And he starts like drawing stuff up on PowerPoint, sending me back and forth. And then we go make one. And sure enough, it's still one of our best selling products today, just because of that. Like, let's make that like idea, because that was something we were already using. But how do you make it better? Right. It's like
Right.
we needed a bag to put stuff in and collect, but like, I mean, one of the first things that goes when you're like like looking around, it's like, all right, we have four open backs, and we need four ladders. You're not going to be like, hey, one of those ladders leaves, we're going to put a litter. Like, you just don't do that. Like,
Yeah.
you're going to use the ladder. You don't know if you're going to use the litter. So, we
And the
saw
ladder
that
can
that
be used as a litter too, but it's not very comfortable.
True, true. So we developed this whole system that actually uses the poles that you can use as a ladder, as part of the stretcher, and that is part of this whole kit, where it's the soft stretcher. Then you take the poles and put it in the soft stretcher. Then you take the poles out, you can put it in. So it's modular. It's all lightweight, and that whole system weighs about a quarter of what just your ladders weigh.
Yeah,
So
it's
it's a
amazing.
huge weight savings.
No, and you guys, I only see what you put on digital media, and but what you know what impresses me about it is like it is all innovative. It's stuff you haven't seen before. Because oftentimes I have to look at it and be like, "What even is this?" And so, like, if you can't tell exactly what it is right off the bat, that's telling you right now that's something that's outside the box thinking, because it's not that
Yeah,
apparent. And then when you look at
yeah,
it, you're like, "Man, that's genius."
yeah,
And all the products look to be super high quality and well when manufactured. And everything's manufactured in the US. It's all Berry compliant stuff,
yep, yep.
which
It
is
has
really
to
important for
be.
all
And
the
yep,
TSA and everything else. So
yeah, it has to be. And then, we obviously we wanted to. I mean, we really pride ourselves in that. So, just when you talk about the quality, I mean, it is. We get one part that comes from Germany, but it's not a soft good. It's actually a mechanical part. But like again, when you're talking about quality, I mean, the Germans know how to do engineering, so it's like it's like we tried to find a US based place to do it, and they were all like, listen, we couldn't do the tolerances, and even if we could figure this out, it would be about 30
cost
times more
prohibitive. Yeah.
expensive than what they do, because they've just know how to manufacture this particular thing. And we're like, okay, that's all we needed to know. So
Cool.
but I mean, they're a great, obviously, allied country, and so we can use parts from there. But when it's talking about anything that's soft good related, it has to be here, even down to the stitching and the threads. So that's one of the things that separates us from others, is we developed our own material too. That what we call MATBOCK Ghost material. So it's not your typical Cordura or other things that you've seen. The Ghost fabric is proprietary to MATBOCK.
And so what's special about that ghost material?
A few things. It's stronger. It's also more uh, like scratch resistant, abrasive resistant, puncture resistant. The fabric itself is waterproof, so I don't need an extra coating on it or anything.
Mm,
It's waterproof, and it also draws. It wants to dissipate heat faster than anything else out there on the market. And this is critical for when you're putting equipment like radios or other things in there in your bags, but also when you're wearing a chest harness or a rig, right? Um, with the laser cut and everything like that, you're actually creating a radiator effect, and that effect is causing it to um, dissipate that heat off of your um, off of your body, because it wants to transfer that heat faster.
pretty cool. I mean, it sounds like something that could fit. I mean, would it be applicable in like athletic apparel and things of that nature, or is it more load bearing type stuff? It's a heavier duty material.
So I mean, it's really light. So it could we've never gone down that road really. I mean, it's super light. I mean, our plate carry, the whole plate carrier is less than a pound. I mean, so
Wow.
it's super lightweight, and really durable and really good. But I don't know. I've never not something we ever looked at just because we're so focused more on the military side of things.
Yeah. And so founded in 2010, so you guys are heading into your 12th year.
Yep.
And
Yep.
so what are you guys excited about? I mean, I know there's a couple of projects you guys are working on that you can't talk about, but what are you guys excited for on the horizon? What's your long-term plan with MATBOCK now?
Yeah, so this year we were named one of Inc. 5000's fastest private growing companies in America. So we came in at like right at 1,000. So we're
Okay.
almost in the top 25% or so. And so um, what I will say is what we did all of last year, we did in the first 4 months of this year. So I'm super excited of where.
Congratulations.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I'm super excited of where the growth is for Mapbach. We haven't publicly announced this yet, but Jim Foreman, our who was a director of sales for us, we're actually promoting him. He's going to become VP of Mapbach for us. He's
Oh,
going to be
nice.
taking over and really running Mapbach. Him and our GM Jason, they are positioned, and we're positioned now to Zach and I are going to really take a step back from the day to day company grind and allow them to really run it. We have full faith in them and
Yeah,
what they've
I
already
love this
done so
Jim
far.
Foreman, he's awesome.
Yeah, Jim's awesome. So, and then Jason, who's our GM, and we're really excited. I mean, what they can take or where they can take Matbach. I mean, I don't know. It's going to be really exciting to see in the next couple years. Um, we've got some big projects. What we're competing up against some of the biggest government defense companies. I mean, Northrop Grumman,
Mhm.
General Dynamics, and then Matbach. Literally, that we've got a project right now where it's the three of us competing, and it's like, I mean, you're talking billion-dollar companies and us, and so we're really like we love that. I mean, kind of like we've been talking about this whole talk, right? The underdog, like we love that, but like the initial feedback from the customer is like, "Hey, you guys actually came with a solution." You
Yeah,
know? Like, we love that. Like, you didn't come with like, "Hey, what do you want us to do?" You actually came with a solution. Now, whether we go with that or not, right? You didn't just come here to like take our idea and say like, "Hey, this is what we're going to go do. We can do this for you." Like, you guys actually came with a solution for this proposal. Like, we love that. And so that's why our name's still in the hat. So it's
that's
really
awesome.
cool. We've got a picture of all three of the names on the board at this program manager meeting. And like I said, it's General Dynamics, Northrop Grumman, and
Yeah.
Matbach.
Sean's grinning from ear to ear for those of you that are just listening in
Yeah.
and not seeing it live, so that's awesome. So let's pivot. How do you go from you and Zach are working on, developing innovative designs for not just special operators, but the military at writ large to getting into the energy supplementation? I mean, I know a little bit of the story, but I let you tell your piece of it because you've got kind of two components of it. How you guys got into that space of the energy drink supplementation, and then it's grown from there.
Yeah. So, I mean, initially it started with a company called Strikeforce. We were in the energy drink space, and seeing a hole in what is a $65 billion a year industry, where I mean, this isn't an energy drink, but like this is 20 ounces, 16.9 ounces, right?
Hmm.
You're shipping this all over the world. They're heavy. You're what's inside of that bottle is only a few milliliters of chemistry when it comes down to it.
Rest is
Um, and the rest is water, right? So when and kind of a funny story, that's how what's the name? The energy drinks that we would always get over in Iraq.
Oh, Rippets.
Rip That's how Rip won the government contract, right? They
They're
were
so
the only ones that were willing to take a 16-ounce can and shove it into 4 ounces and put all the same ingredients in it because you just went from a 16-ounce to a 4 ounce, so a quarter of the weight to ship that, and that's how they won the government contract
It's so
for the
funny.
U.S.
I always
military.
thought that my little myopicness was like, "Oh, the Rippets are just so powerful, they only give it to you in a 4-ounce can," you know?
Nope. No, because now if you see it anywhere else, they're always in the 16-ounce cans.
Right,
If
yeah.
I mean, and typically you only see them in like discount stores or stuff like that. But yeah, they've all gone back to the 16-ounce can. But um, so when we looked at it, we said we know that we're always going to have water or have access to water. I mean, if you don't have water, I mean that's a huge mission failure, right?
Mm,
And also thinking if we made it into a liquid itself and not a powder, now if the guy has to, he could shoot the packet straight. It's not
mhm.
enjoyable, but they're getting that energy drink, and we know the military runs on caffeine, energy, and nicotine. So it's like, hey, we're hitting our core, our core customer, which was the military, and so we helped develop Strike Force. We've since sold that, and but that really kind of gave us an understanding of um, that market and the potential. But it was just so focused on energy drinks because we were an energy drink company, so we couldn't bring recovery or hydration or obviously like non-caffeinated things or things like that because it was an energy drink and that's what we were focused on, which but Zach and I are huge into working out. We still work out, and as we looked at it, we're like, I mean, so our immune booster, for example, those are all things that Zach was already taking and has taken for years, but just in its individual forms. So the Scizandra, the rosea, the vitamin C, and everything like those are all things that he was already taking. So it was like, how can we take those things and emulsify them into a liquid form and a concentration? So we hired a chemist to help us develop this further, and then we again just seeing the supplement space is another massive market, and everybody's doing the exact same thing in the supplement space. They're all in tubs, they're all powders, and sometimes a lot of these places are using all the same ingredients or manufacturers and
And just
just
putting
putting
a
their
different
name
label on it. Yeah.
and just putting their label on it, right? And so we were just like, and again, nothing wrong with them. Like we love a lot of these supplement companies. I still use different supplements from different supplement companies because haven't really kind of come up with our own yet. But like there is a time and a place where they make sense. Where we really found our niche is the people that are on the go. They want the consistency, and they love portability. They love consistency, convenience, and so we're able to bring that in CardoMax as a whole with our product lines right now. And like you mentioned earlier, the energy intensifier, that's our pre workout. But we wanted to build the pre workout so that it wasn't like your typical generic pre-workout where it's only built for bodybuilders. And like I already, I mean, probably you could tell, like I already have a good amount of energy. I don't need a huge amount of energy pre-workout where my skin's itching or like I feel like I'm on steroids type
Yeah,
thing. Like
I say that energy intensifier, and I don't take it that often because 'cause I'm very sensitive to, like, caffeine, um, but man, when I take it, I say it burns clean. Like, I don't
yeah,
get shakes or jittery or whatever else, and it doesn't keep me up at night.
yeah.
I haven't taken more than 2 in a day, so, I mean, I don't know, but yeah, I love
No, and
the product.
see, and if I take it, it's about one a day if I take it, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm drinking one right now. I'm drinking the blue raspberry
Yeah.
right now. Um, but because right after this I'm actually gonna go work out. So uh so so that's your pre-workout, but we wanted it to be functional energy, like you said. Like I don't want it to feel like if you're going to be itchy or anything like that. I want it to be something where if you want to go on a 100-mile bike ride, you're not going to feel like this gut bomb just hits you, or, you're going to have like this huge spike in energy. And then halfway through your ride, you're just bonking hard, right? We didn't want that. So we built it, we formulated it. So, and 200 milligrams of caffeine, when people see it, they're like, well, that's not a lot of caffeine. It's like, you're missing the point of the product. The product is, because of how we're able to take it, emulsify it down, and make it so that there's less ingredients, less of those ingredients. So when you goes into your system, it goes right into your system, and there's the less waste of everything. So your body's, like you said, it's a clean burn. You're getting a max amount of that caffeine, and you're not subsidizing it with, you get some caffeine, but you also get 40 milligrams of sugar,
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and then,
It mixes so easy. It's
yep,
clear. The flavors are great, and I like how you guys do like your try it Tuesdays, where like everybody's kind of showing and showcasing what different beverages they're mixing it with. This it's an ingenious product, and the way it ships is really nice too, easy to open. And as you mentioned, I'm a cyclist, so I've used powdered supplements before, like when I go on some of my long treks, and it was a pain in the neck. I have to get a
yep,
Ziploc bag out, put some of the powder in there, and hope to God my sweat didn't drip through it and then clump it all up when I put it in the bag. Now
yeah,
I can just have some packets in the back, and as I'm plussing up my water, I just add a packet to it. So I'm super excited this summer. I'm using your hydration stuff now, but I'm
yep,
not doing the long distances that I do in the summertime. So I'm super excited in the summer to be carrying that stuff because I was having salt tablets and things like that on me.
yep.
And then with the hydration, the flavor is just really intense and good. So I'm looking
Man,
forward
I
to
I I'm really happy now. As we know, like, the hydration didn't come out as well as we were hoping. We had a little bit of problems with some separation of it. So, but we fixed that. We're actually, we concentrated down the flavoring a little bit to allow more water, and did a kind of a ratio thing. So fixed it, and got a new piece of equipment in to help us, not only get it into solution but keep it in solution. That's actually the hardest thing when we're doing what we're doing. That's the hardest thing. Like, we can get anything into solution, but it's keeping it in solution.
it.
That's the hardest part. And it takes some work, because, like, literally one wrong ingredient, one wrong step, not enough time on in the blender. Blender's a lag, it's just
Yeah.
it's a emulsification product. But not enough time in there, and all of a sudden it just separates, and it's just like, dang, and you got to start all over
Yeah, but
again.
you know what I thought? I mean, one is I'll give you guys your company another shout out about how you stick with your integrity and your culture, just as you did with MATBOCK and that GPS carrier. I think I was one of the first orders of when you had that hydration thing. Because if you remember back in your Strike Force
Yep.
days, it was like, Sean, this stuff is
Yeah.
awesome, but I can't have that much caffeine all day long. When are you going to make stuff without caffeine?
Yep.
So as soon as you guys came out with hydration, I'm like, I'm in. And I got the
Yep.
hydration and it came with the little pamphlet right there or the little letter that you had. Hey, sorry, there's some settlement in the bottom. You got to really shake it up. What I
Yep.
do is I have the packet in my pocket upside down for about 5 minutes as I'm walking around getting things ready. And then it's kind of all
Yep.
broken up in there. But you guys put in there a disclaimer like, hey, this isn't what we wanted. Here's I think you guys gave us a $10 coupon or something like that
Yep.
towards our next purchase. And I'm like, I think I sent you a photo of it. I'm like, Sean, this is exactly what I'm talking about, man.
Yep.
Awesome stuff.
You sure did.
And what I liked about it though is even though it didn't all go into solution, if I shook it up, I could get it all out. But even if I didn't, what was remarkable is that little bit of the salts and all the other ingredients in there that crystallized in there. I would just suck on that thing. Because,
It's it,
well, when you're hot and you've been working out, your body, if you're in tune with
needs
your
it.
body, you know what is good for you. And like I've taken supplements and it tastes like some artificial junk that's not good for you. But when I'm sucking on that little crystal thing, it wasn't like my body was repulsed by. It was like, it was nutrients. It was like salt.
Yeah.
It was the things that my body was craving at the moment because it was needed. And that's to me, that's like a test. Like if my body feels that way with a product, I know that there's quality stuff in there and it's what my body needs. So I'm really happy with
Yeah.
that.
And again, I mean, like, I appreciate that. It's something, again, I mean, while our, while Matt Box name, or, there's not Zach or Sean name stamped on the packaging. I mean, it's 100% still our name on, behind CardoMax. And so, we do, and when we make sure that we're up and also communicating these things with people. So we're trying to really be engaged with, I know we talked right before we jumped on, our workout app and stuff like that we're doing. We're really working to build this community. We're While, yes, I mean, we want people to enjoy our products and we want people to keep coming back for the products. Ultimately, we're building this community and this culture of our customers, and ultimately people who we want to be with years down the road and see them meet their goals and their fitness and things like that. I mean, just the stories we're already getting, and we're only a year or not even a year old. It's just incredible. I mean, some of the one of our guys who's in the VIP club with us, he is type 2 diabetic, and started drinking an immune booster every single day.
Mhm.
And right now he's panicking because we've been out for a
I was
few,
gonna give you that. Yeah, go ahead.
we've been out for a little bit, but he's like, I'm literally down to my last couple, Sean. Like, I need to know, because he went back for a checkup after a few months of doing this. And well, yes, he did start working out. Um, his all of his numbers were in normal range, and the doctor was like, "Whatever you're doing, you have to keep doing. Like, this
Mm,
is working." And the further research, the Sazandra and the rosea, um, and the ginseng, all three of those things actually do help with type 2 diabetes and helping with some of the inflammation in your body and some of these other things like this. So there's not a lot of research about it, but there's some supporting research. And he was like, dude, he's like, this has helped me keep this thing unchecked, keep my this thing in check for me. And he's like, I'm a firm believer. He's like, I'm going to be drinking one a day now. And like I told you, he's like, man, when is this coming back?
so
Because I
you're
need
gonna
it.
get a testimonial and well, it's not even a dig because I know you guys are
Yeah.
working as hard as you can to replace them, but my testimonial is like, so I wake up most mornings, I have a little bit of what they call brain fog, right? Like all the dings and bangs I've been through in my career. That's why I do yoga first thing in the morning. And once I started taking the immune in the morning, I swear I'm like sharper within like 20 to 30 minutes. So it's a daily routine for me.
Yeah.
I have immune right after my first cup of tea, or if I'm having something else before my workout, I have immune before my workout or while I'm getting warmed up for my workout. And then when my daughter Samantha came home from college, um, I got her on the immune because she had just been traveling and everything like that. I wanted to make sure that she's keeping everything ramped up, and that's become her daily. And then
Yeah.
Abby, everybody else in my family. So my whole family is taking, one a day, and then I'm on the subscription service as one of the VIP members, I'm like I've always been one package ahead, you know. And so we're like, I'm at the last 3 immunes. I take mine and I lay the 2 out for my daughters. I'm like, "Man, I should have been getting a shipment by now." And then I get the email
Yeah.
that like, "Hey, we're out of stock but we're gonna replace it as soon as possible." And I DM'd Sean that morning, like, "Hey, man, like,
When is this coming?
any
Yeah.
idea when you're gonna get replacements for the immune? Because my whole family's, like, dying for this stuff." So and now I
Yeah, I
know
mean,
there'll be a subscription going up to Dartmouth in January when my daughter goes to school, so
Y yeah, it's like, kinda talked about briefly, but it was a strategic decision we made. We we obviously launched the hydration. We just did that. But knowing what kinda time and everything was, we weren't gonna be able to restock the watermelon immune and launch. We got a new energy, two new energy products coming out for Black Friday. They're actually arriving today, so like they should probably be in the warehouse when I get
I
off.
get an early
But
delivery.
yeah, so we we knew that we weren't going to be able to bring those four new SKUs to the market in time for Black Friday if we brought watermelon back, and we were like, man, and we were like, well, we can't just bring one of the hydration in and not the other, because what if people don't like lemon lime and they won't so it's like, so we're just like, all right, we'll do this. And then there was a potential there that we were going to be able to do all five before Black Friday, and we were like, yes. And then a delay happened on getting the new machine dialed in, and we were just like, that totally threw everything off. And it was like, so
Well,
Unfortunately,
my takeaway from that whole experience is that I need to get my order in for Black Friday. Like,
so on Black Friday, we got a so actually, um, you'll see something
unfortunately,
Thanksgiving.
this episode's not gonna release before
Yeah,
Black Friday, so
no worries.
this is
You'll
totally
see
selfish endeavor here. I'll be getting my
you'll see something Thanksgiving. All right. So VIP is going to see something Thanksgiving.
okay,
So
cool. Looking
I'll
forward to
leave it
it.
at
All right.
that.
The other thing I like is, and maybe you guys plan on adding more flavors, which I'm sure you do, but I love the simplicity of my choices. Like, I'm the person when I go to the supermarket and the recipe calls for mustard, and I gotta look at 75 different flavors of mustard. It's like, it's just obscene. It's part of the consumerism of our gosh darn culture. I think it's ridiculous.
Yep.
So the fact that, like, you guys have one is your flavors are niche. They're a little bit there's something unique about each of your flavors. None of them are like that. It's not just lemon. There's lemon with some other flavors to it, which is makes it unique. But, like, you got 2 choices for each of the brands that you guys have or the categories that you have, and I think that's brilliant, and, so hopefully you keep it kinda that simple for that, it's nice, it's refreshing.
W Yeah, no, we wanted to bring just because the energy intensifier is such a strong category for us. Um, what we were finding though was some exhaustion of like, "Hey, listen, I don't like pink lemonade." You know,
You wanna change it
I
up a
was
little bit,
only
yeah.
drinking blue raspberry, and they were just like, "Listen, I love it, but, like, I kinda would like another flavor," you know, so they weren't drinking both, and we got that feedback quite a bit, um, or they liked both of them, um, but like I said, they wanted to see it, and we know it's just one of those things. It's always like a delicate thing. Like you're right though, having too many options can also hurt. And so we're gonna try to balance. But I think what we're gonna do is cycle some
Yeah.
flavors.
I like that too
So
because that keeps it new and refreshing, and the fact of the matter is because it mixes so well, and that's one of the other things that's unique, and you guys talk a little bit about it, but, like, the fact that you've made these things all into solution, you can mix it
yeah,
with orange juice, you can mix it with all sorts of different flavored drinks to kinda make your own flavors out of stuff, where with a lot
yeah,
of the powdered supplements, you try and mix it with something that's has more viscosity than water, and you can forget about it,
yeah. Or carbonate it, right?
or
Like you can't
carbonated. Yeah,
do
you can't do that,
or
yeah.
you see things explode. No, but we've been talking about that is cycling some things, or for example, maybe like rather so like the grape and watermelon that are coming out, the two new energy, those are the same flavors that we're already buying for other products,
Right.
but it brings in a different thing. So, like I don't drink our recovery drink every single day, right?
Mhm.
But that grape is the same grape we're going to use for the energy, but it allows us to um, get some economy of scale where I can
Sure.
order flavor for both SKUs, and so that does help. So we're going to try to cycle some things through.
And tell me about your distribution. Is the manufacturing in one key location, or is different products being manufactured in different spots?
So everything is being manufactured just outside of Philadelphia,
Oh,
so just north of there. Zach actually lives part time up in Philly, so it makes it convenient. The facility's right there; he can go over there and check on stuff. But they're they're a co-packer for us.
mhm,
We went there last year. Really showed them how with our chemist and everything. Like this is how you have to make it, and then set the procedures in place to do that, and then the control measures to make sure that they were doing it the way that we wanted it to be done, and everything. And then it's growing pains, but we worked through it with them, and they worked with us. I mean, just like any relationship, there's growing pains on both sides for stuff. Like, they've got their own experience, then they're really good at that, and we've got our own experience, and we're really good at what we think we do. And so, the give and take on that to make the relationship work. But we're looking. Just as we continue to grow out, we're going to have some others, so we don't have just single points of failure in there.
yeah, and are you guys distributing nationwide already?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, We just got on Amazon not too long ago. I don't know how many states we've shipped to already, but I know at least 20 of them are already collecting taxes on us. So
Oh,
we've hit some certain thresholds with at least 20 out of the 50 states. So
okay, good.
uh, yeah, the man, that's a whole nother pain in the butt with e-commerce, but it's a good feeling when they send you the letter like, "Hey, you start owing some state taxes now." But like, man, each state has their own process and their nuances and stuff. And one of the worst ones was New Jersey, um, which like required you to send a money order. It's like we're 2021. Like, what? I don't need to send a money order, and it's only like a couple bucks. I mean, it's only like $10 or $15 to money order up. I'm just like, can't just like, can I just wire you the money? Like, put
Yes.
it on a credit card, and then it takes like 14 days. And it was just like this long, drawn out process. And then finally, we got the letter, and I sent it to some friends of ours that are from New Jersey, and I was like, only New Jersey
Yeah.
does this happen? That
And you get it
and
both ways too, because the consumer's got to pay the tax too. It's
Yeah, yeah. So that does, and I mean, obviously, I mean, there's nothing we can do, but like, um, but yeah, there's certain thresholds, and one thing that we use Shopify e-commerce platform. They do a really good job of tracking those things for you and kind of giving you those notifications. We actually have like two or three that we have to process and get done now. So two more states.
there you go.
So
So you did the bomb suit 1 mile. You've competed in it a couple of times, but last year you tried to break the world record. And now are you going to train for it again? And what does that look like for
Yeah,
you
so I'm not going to this next year. I'm still jacked up. I'm actually
rehabbing?
going to
Yeah,
I actually got rehab tomorrow. So I attempted it this year. So it's a what we've kind of developed is like a yearly thing, and it's a family fun 5K that we put together, and then at the end of it, they do a 1 mile bomb shoot run. We raise money for some a particular charity. This last year was for Headstrong, that really does a lot
it's a
of
great
research
organization.
and great work and TBI and guys that are just having issues, some PTSD and other things, and so they were the nonprofit that we were raising money for, and so um, myself and a female, her name is Katie, we're going to be the two to attempt it this year, and I up until a week before the attempt, so it was early April, so right at the end of March. I'm good. Like all my test runs, all my pre training runs, I'm at or below the world record. So I'm feeling really confident. I'm feeling really good. Some of these workouts were just absolutely brutal. But I was feeling good, and my body felt good. I had a little bit of pain in my ankle, but nothing to like, okay, nothing to like I had to stop training on. And then, yeah, about a week out, all of a sudden had just massive pain in my right calf. And come to find out I had blood clots.
Oh, no
And
kidding.
yeah, so have no idea why. Obviously, I'm not your typical atypical person for blood clots. No genetic disorders, no nothing. They can't figure out, and so still get that. So I have a little bit of damage in my veins from that, but also something happened in my ankle too, and we're still trying to figure that out. And that's what I'm actually getting rehab on right now is my ankle. But it feels like my ankle is just extremely weak, and like so getting some work done on that. But just in the current state, this is already being November. I'm not even at. I'm not. I've done one run since March, and that's it. There's
Oh,
just
man.
no way that I could ramp up to try to do a world record in 3 months.
And so
Not at
when
the
when's that 5K for our listeners?
Yeah, so it's going to be so I think the date is already set. So it's the end of March. I'll have to give you the exact date after. I don't remember right
Yeah,
off the
I'll
top of
put
my
it. I'll
head.
put everything in the show notes as well.
but it's going to be up in DC. So it's a family fun 5K. Usually the I don't know, what do you call them? I was going to say Washington Redskins, but the Washington football team,
Mhm.
they're going to be out there. Some players from there. The cheerleaders come out. It's just a really good fun thing. The 5K is on a cross country trail, so
Oh, great.
usually a good time. So yeah, it's good event.
Cool, man. Well, is there anything you wanna talk about that we haven't
Yeah,
discussed yet? Yeah.
real quick. Yeah, before
Yeah, we
I did want to give a shout
fine.
out to Katie.
Yeah.
So she actually broke the world record real
Yeah,
fast.
and she is
So
actually an EOD operator too, isn't
she
she?
is. She
Yeah.
is. Yeah, she ran. So the whole suit, right, is about 85 pounds with the helmet. This helmet 17 pounds itself.
Good
That
lord.
to me was the worst. That to me was the worst of it all. But she ran 10 minutes and 23 seconds for 1 mile in this 85-pound bomb suit. I mean, just an absolute beast. And then like 2 days later competes in like regional CrossFit game thing. And I was like, dude, you're an animal. Like,
Wow.
so she's tough. But
I
yeah,
watched her do it live when you guys had that live broadcast out there and
yeah.
looks pretty impressive.
Yeah. I mean, she didn't even look tired. I was like, I hate you. I was like, I hate you right now. Yeah, I was totally bummed, but I was really, really, ecstatic that she got it and did it because I know how hard she trained. Like her and I were sending videos back and forth and tagging each other in our workouts and stuff like that. And so it was always good. I mean, just you again, we talk about just that having that camaraderie or stuff like that when somebody's training and what they're training and how hard they're training for something and then they like, hey man, that sucked. Go look at those and you're just like, oh man, it's like now I got to go do that. So
Heck yeah, man. Well, Sean, this was a lot of fun, man. Thanks for coming on board. And
appreciate it.
if people want to get in touch with you, MATBOCK and CardoMax, I'll have everything in the show notes. But um, you know, anything preferred that you share with the public out there?
Yeah, I mean, just regular Instagram, just Sean.Matson. That's probably the easiest. I got links to MATBOCK and CardoMax there, and try to communicate with people all through that and anytime I can. So
Yeah. Cool. Well, thanks again. And from the SEAL
thanks,
community,
Bob.
we're all really proud of what you and Zach are doing, giving back to the community, giving back to society, and then you continue to innovate. And I look forward to what you guys have next. So
Appreciate
thanks.
it, Bob. Thanks for the time.
All right. Yep. You guys have a good one. Till then, we'll see you on
Thanks.
the other side of the microphone. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Victory Podcast, where we explore life, leadership, and journey. Please follow us on Instagram at the Victory Podcast, as well as LinkedIn, and our website at victorystrategies.com, where you can also follow us on Instagram and LinkedIn. Have a phenomenal day, everyone. And until next time, I'm your host, Bob Newman, telling you all right, have a phenomenal day. And if you're still listening, why not tune in to the previous episode if you haven't given it a listen yet? Cheers.